الآخرة هم الأخسرون وإنك لتلقى القرآن من لدن حكيم عليم إذ قال موسى لأهله إني
In the ruins of two towers, under a flag unfurled at the Pentagon, at the funerals of the lost, we have made a sacred promise to ourselves and to the world. We will not relent until justice is done and our nation is secure. What our enemies have begun, we will finish. President Bush, 11 September 2002.
The road to Baghdad began a year before the actual deployment of Fifth Corps. Long before any soldiers crossed the berm into the southern deserts of Iraq, Corps, Division, and Brigade planners were busy analyzing intelligence and planning the tactics necessary to capture Saddam Hussein and seize Baghdad. Exercise Victory Strike, conducted in Poland, enabled the Fifth Corps staff to practice planning, preparing, and executing Corps operations that would be critical to the approaching campaign. Over 5,000 Fifth Corps soldiers participated, honing their C2 skills, deep attack procedures, and integrated fires effects process. When we left in October 2002, we had become a lethal corps. The war team came together during the pivotal C2 planning exercises, Lucky Warrior, and Internal Look in Kuwait. The CFLIC, 5th Corps, and the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force established their initial wartime command post, installed an interoperable network, and developed the critical modification that would have 5th Corps and 1st MEF simultaneously attack into Iraq. It was a modification that would result in the utter destruction of all viable Ba'athist-based Iraqi institutions by the following mid-April. 5th Corps and divisional commanders and their critical staffs participated in their capstone command and control exercise, Victory Scrimmage, at Grafenwehr, Germany in late January and early February 2003. Within snow-covered tents, over slick roads, and under frozen evergreens, the Army's top battle commanders planned for combat that would take place on desert sand and in the boiling heat. Even as they rehearsed, the great national transportation machine was gearing up. Selected mobilization was underway. Orders were received and processed. War was imminent. As Corps units gathered in northern Kuwait, 5th Corps conducted its final exercise, Victory Ready. It was the Corps' last opportunity to integrate force structure, refine collective skills, and hone the individual soldier's fighting spirit. All we were waiting for was the word. The October deployment of 5th Corps' forward and rear command posts were the first in what became a steady stream of deploying headquarters. The Corps' separates and maneuver divisions and regiments made their way into theater, fanning out to find temporary lodging in various camps across the Kuwaiti desert. Camps New York, Virginia, and Pennsylvania were named to commemorate the victims of 9/11. Within weeks, those camps would become synonymous with the great Corps that would vindicate their deaths.
Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict. President George W. Bush, 17 March 2003.
As tensions grew and political solutions failed, a warrior ethos surfaced and burned like wildfire throughout the Corps. The soldiers were ready for duty, ready to support their commander and chief, ready to spread freedom to a people they didn't even know.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. To all the men and women of the United States Armed Forces now in the Middle East, the peace of a troubled world and the hopes of an oppressed people now depend on you. That trust is well placed. President George W. Bush, Address to the Nation, 19 March 2003.
It was time to face the enemy. The first task was to penetrate a 10-kilometer deep defensive linear obstacle along the Kuwaiti-Iraqi border, literally a line in the sand. The berm was a combination of massive tank ditches, concertina wire, electrified fencing, and berms of dirt. With the berm breached, the next objective was Talil Air Base, situated southwest of the town of Talil and adjacent to An-Naziriyah, under the long shadow cast by the ziggurat of Abraham's birthplace in the ancient city of Ur. The Battle of Talil secured the Corps' northwest approach to Baghdad, as well as bridges of Highway 1, over which 1st MEF would send its forces. Magnificently successful, the fight secured an airbase that remains to this day a critical logistics and airbase for the Coalition Joint Task Force. As the Marines and Brits battled bravely in Basra, Nasiriyah, and Ghazar, 5th Corps forces flowed like a steady stream across the border breach. With initial objectives secured, 3rd Infantry Division, the 101st Airborne Division, and the 11th Attack Helicopter Regiment continued their rapid advance northward toward Objective Rams. In fact, all 5th Corps supporting forces would race toward Rams, an intermediate objective from which the Corps would adjust its plan for the pivotal assault on Baghdad. At Rams, the Corps established its first extensive cross-LD network and logistics sustainment area, which was named Bushmaster. 4 days after President Bush had declared war, 25 Corps command posts were huddled within an 8-kilometer square, 220 kilometers into Iraqi territory. To protect his forces during their rapid advance northward and to counter any potential Iraqi-led defense by artillery and maneuver units from the Republican Guard Medina Division, General Wallace launched a deep attack behind enemy lines. At approximately 2200 hours Zulu on 23 March, the 11th Attack Helicopter Regiment led the strike with 32 Apache attack helicopters, augmented by the 1st of the 227th Aviation Battalion. Under intense enemy fire, strike pilots weaved and dodged and effectively released Hellfire missiles, resulting in the destruction of 6 armored vehicles, 2 to 3 armored personnel carriers, 3 trucks, and 12 anti-aircraft artillery systems. All 32 aircraft received hostile fire damage, yet only 1 was downed. 2 MIA pilots were later rescued unharmed. 1 day into the Corps' occupation of Rams and Bushmaster, Mother Nature unleashed the mother of all storms. It was a sandstorm from hell. From 24 to 27 March, the Corps endured winds gusting to 100 knots, with visibility limited at times to arm's length. Thick crust of red muck outlined grim faces from soldiers who fought for breath. The storm slowed the tempo of the fight. When the storm finally lifted, 220 miles of clear sky separated the Victory Corps Tactical Command Post and the Corps' main headquarters in Camp Virginia, Kuwait. As General Wallace observed, the only way back home had always been through Baghdad. As the Corps rapidly moved northward, the Corps Main served as the synchronizing command post for General Wallace as he led the fight from his command and control vehicle. The Main integrated fire's effects, tracked information systems feeding the common operational picture, and maintained visibility on moving combat elements through the use of Blue Force tracking. These command and control systems were tied together by internal Corps tactical communications, which provided General Wallace the visibility necessary to effectively maneuver his forces northward. The scope of the logistics effort exceeded in distance and magnitude that of General Omar Bradley's race to Berlin. The Corps Deputy Commanding General, Major General Wojciechowski, led the sustainment fight from the Corps rear. 20 days into the ground campaign, the Corps Support Command had enabled the distribution of 40 million gallons of fuel. Lieutenant General Wallace decided to initiate operations to isolate Baghdad. From his command and control vehicle, Situated as far forward as the 3rd Infantry Divisional Main, General Wallace polled his maneuver commanders to determine if they were capable of performing complementary operations. Integrating attacks from all maneuver elements in 5 different directions, including a skilled deception attack and a thrilling race through the Kabbalah Gap, the Corps commander and his G3 supervised a splendid display of teamwork that established the necessary conditions for Baghdad's ultimate fall. At its conclusion, An-Najaf and Asamawa were in the firm grip of the 101st Airborne and 82nd Airborne Divisions respectively. 3rd Infantry Division had secured Objective Peach, the crossing site over the Euphrates River. The 5 simultaneous attacks had spanned 3 days and nearly all of central Iraq. The place, manner, and time for 5th Corps' decisive seizure of Baghdad was now a matter of choice. The seizure of Objective Saints was next on the agenda. The 2nd Brigade combat team of the 3rd Infantry Division attacked Saints through Objective Peach and established the first element of the cordon around Baghdad. On 3 April, Major General Blunt called General Wallace on the single-channel tactical satellite and requested permission to initiate an immediate attack on Saddam International Airport. Blunt insisted that his division was the right choice. He told General Wallace, "Sir, we trained for this. We prepared for this. We're ready for this. We need to go now." There was a pause on the radio channel and a hush in the Corps Tactical Operations Center as 100 members of his staff waited to hear the Corps commander's decision. After several seconds, Wallace broke the suspense with his firm, confidence-building reply. "Have a good fight. Victory 6 out."
No, we have retaken the airport. There are no Americans there. I will take you there and show you in 1 hour. Iraqi Information Minister Mohammad Saeed Al-Sahaf, Baghdad Bab.
History shows that the airport was soon renamed Baghdad International Airport. Once the airport was in coalition hands, 3rd Infantry Division's first order of business was to conduct a thunder run into downtown Baghdad in order to test the inner defenses. Following up that success, the next day, General Wallace and General Blunt ordered a full brigade to drive through the city's heart. After braving ferocious fighting and overwhelming a tenacious enemy, the 3rd Infantry Division established residence in the city's most symbolic locations. "Baghdad is ours," an ebullient BCT commander declared live over worldwide media.
My fellow Americans, major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed. Our nation and our coalition are proud of this accomplishment. Yet, it is you, the members of the United States military, who achieved it. You have shown the world the skill and the might of the American Armed Forces. 1 May 2003, President Bush aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Baghdad may have fallen, but as 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment and 4th Infantry Division soon discovered, armed opposition would shift from organized military units to an insurgency led by former regime loyalists and marked by tactics that included remote detonations of bombs, increasingly sophisticated ambushes, persistent mortar attacks, and suicide bombers. 3rd ACR occupied Fallujah, and 4th Infantry Division established its base in Tikrit, the hometown of Saddam Hussein. Together with Baghdad, those cities formed the Sunni Triangle, a place that had the most to lose and therefore the most to avenge. 1st Armored Division relieved 3rd Infantry Division and assumed control of Baghdad, a city in turmoil. The 101st repositioned to take over restive northern Iraq. As the Corps transitioned to the security and stabilization phase, it was clear that it would do so while waging war. In June 2003, the Victory Corps said farewell to their wartime commander, Lieutenant General William Scott Wallace. In his place came another consummate leader, Lieutenant General Ricardo S. Sanchez, a commander who understood the Corps and its mission. Within days of his assumption, it was apparent that he too would lead from the front. His mission was monumental, securing the conditions for the establishment of a free Iraq. Also during June 2003, Fifth Corps replaced the Coalition Forces Land Component Command as the Coalition Joint Task Force 7, with operational control over all forces operating in the Iraqi theater. Iraq's evolution toward a free democratic nation is happening because CJTF-7 continues to capture or kill the leaders of a regime whose method of rule included torture, murder, and genocide. Also during this time, the Coalition Provisional Authority, or CPA, was organized as a temporary governing body designated by the United Nations as the lawful government of Iraq. Its authority is a coalition of many nations from all over the world, encompassing every major religion and ethnic group. It is led by the United States and the United Kingdom. In addition to protecting Iraqi territorial integrity and working to provide security to the Iraqi people, the CPA began a process of rebuilding the country's infrastructure, including its dysfunctional governmental system. Leadership from the U.S. State Department, U.S. Agency for International Development, and other essential non-military agencies established offices in what had been Saddam Hussein's presidential palace located in the heart of Baghdad's elite district. Within 7 months of the military-civilian partnership between CJTF-7 and CPA led to the establishment of an Iraqi Civil Defense Corps, a reorganized Iraqi police force, and the total disruption of organized insurrection, terrorism, and organized crime. The brilliant partnership between CJTF-7 and the CPA is setting the conditions for Iraq to emerge as a truly democratic and viable nation that is based on freedom and individual human rights. In July, after a 6-hour firefight at a palatial villa in the northern Iraqi city of Mosul, U.S. forces killed Saddam's murderous sons, Uday and Qusay. On December 13, 2003, after 9 months on the run, Saddam Hussein found himself at the deep end of a spider hole, staring face to face with Time magazine's Person of the Year, the American Soldier, and approximately 604th Infantry Division and Special Operations Forces. The Ace of Spades, Saddam Hussein, was in CJTF-7 custody.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
The capture of this man was crucial to the rise of a free Iraq. It marks the end of the road for him and for all who bullied and killed in his name. In the history of Iraq, a dark and painful era is over. A hopeful day has arrived. President Bush.
In January 2004, the Chief of Staff of the Army swore in the 13th Sergeant Major of the Army. Who better to represent our soldiers than a Victory Corps leader who led them from the front? Congratulations, Sergeant Major of the Army, Kenneth O. Preston. Also in January, the Victory Corps began redeploying units to Germany. Corps family readiness groups, who so faithfully supported deployed family members and their units during the war, now prepared for their return. They organized yellow ribbon campaigns throughout the military communities in Germany and assisted installation leadership with greeting and reunion activities. Family readiness groups continue to support returning soldiers, single and married, with warm and memorable homecomings. Although the focus of this history was on the Victory Corps, we do not forget the equal contributions of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force and the 1st United Kingdom Armored Division during the ground campaign. We also salute the extraordinary efforts of the British and Polish-led multinational divisions and the other 33 nations that have made CJTF-7 one of history's great examples of coalition operations. On February 1, 2004, the Victory Corps relinquished command to the 3rd Corps Phantom Warriors, an occasion that marked the end to one of the most successful military actions of this century. Victory Corps' destruction of the Ba'athist regime and its equally impressive performance as the Coalition Joint Task Force responsible for building a free Iraq marked the Corps as among history's best led and most successful military organizations. The enemy's decisive defeat and Iraq's subsequent recovery could not have happened without the heroic contributions of Victory Corps separates, that band of brothers whose special skills were placed in general, reinforcing and direct support to maneuver divisions and regiments. Some of their accomplishments are: Corps in the attack. Victory achieved.